Hey man, if you've ever sat back and genuinely tried to make sense of what women are attracted to, you've probably hit a wall of contradictions that makes your brain hurt. One minute she says she wants a kind, emotionally available man. The next, she's chasing after the guy who barely gives her the time of day. She claims she wants stability and commitment, but she gets butterflies for the dude who disappears for days without warning. You hold the door open, you send thoughtful texts, you plan meaningful dates, and yet she still seems more turned on by the mystery of someone who couldn't care less. And in that confusion, most men start questioning themselves. Am I not enough? Am I doing something wrong? But what if I told you it's not you? It's the nature of attraction itself. Because the truth is, everything that attracts women makes no damn logical sense. You see, male desire is mostly straightforward. It's visual cues, curves, beauty, femininity. But female desire, it's a symphony of emotions, of power dynamics, of unconscious signals and deep-seated fantasy. It's not built on reason, it's built on sensation. That's why she can say one thing and respond to the complete opposite. She says she wants a man who listens, but her body lights up when a man leads. She says she wants honesty, but she melts for mystery. She says she wants safety, but her attraction often spikes when she feels a little off balance. None of it is malicious. None of it is a conscious game. It's just how the feminine mind operates. Emotion first, logic later, if at all. Why the nice guy always finishes last. Not because he's a bad person, but because he is predictable. And predictability kills arousal. You could be everything she says she wants on paper and still feel completely invisible to her emotional body. Why? Because attraction is not about credentials. It's not about being the best logical choice. It's about being the most felt choice, and the man who triggers any emotion will always have the edge over the man who simply makes sense. That's why she'll skip right over the safe guy for the emotionally unavailable one, because her nervous system is awake when she's around him, even if it hurts. And here's the wild part, even she doesn't understand it. Women aren't out here plotting some grand psychological scheme. Half the time they are just as confused by their own preferences as you are. She say, I don't know why I keep going back to him, he's so bad for me. And you, sitting there with your loyalty, your consistency, your Herculean effort, you're left baffled. But that's because you are using logic to understand what is entirely emotional. You're trying to explain thunder by measuring the rain. Attraction doesn't reward what is fair, it rewards what is felt. And what is felt is often irrational, chaotic, and hard to control. This is why the man who holds emotional gravity, who doesn't chase, who doesn't over-explain himself, who carries himself with a calm, almost dangerous energy, wins over the man who begs for understanding, because women aren't seeking comfort 24/7. They are seeking a meaningful emotional experience. And often, those experiences don't come wrapped in kindness and good manners. They come in the form of a man who makes her question, who makes her feel things she can't quite name, who doesn't explain himself because he doesn't have to. That mystery, that unpredictability, that silence, it triggers her mind in ways no romantic gesture ever could. You want to know why the bad boy trope never dies? Because it taps into something primal in her. Not just the rebellion, but the assertiveness, the self-focus, the refusal to apologize for being who he is. Women aren't attracted to toxicity. They are attracted to unapologetic certainty. And most good men lack that. They dilute their energy. They filter their truth. They walk on eggshells, trying not to scare her away. But in doing so, they become invisible. Because she doesn't want a man who is perfect. She wants a man who is real. And reality, my brother, isn't always polite. Ever notice how women say, I love a man who makes me laugh, but then you see her with the guy who barely cracks a joke? That's because her attraction to humor isn't about jokes. It's about emotional mastery. A man who can make her laugh is a man who understands tension. He can build it, hold it, and then break it. That's what attraction is. It's the push and the pull, the unpredictability, the storm and the calm. And that's why the smooth talkers, the confident teasers, the emotionally intelligent men who know how to control the tempo of an interaction, they are magnetic. Not because they are funny, but because they are alive in the moment, unafraid to lead the rhythm. Here's another thing that makes no logical sense. The more you validate her too early, the less she values your presence. That's right, the more you compliment her before she's emotionally invested, the more you just seem like every other guy. It feels good for a moment, sure, but it doesn't hook her, because validation that is not earned feels cheap. And women, deep down, want to earn your attention, not because they are manipulative, but because earned attention feels real. It means you saw past the surface. You didn't just throw praise at her to get laid. You made her feel seen, and that feeling, that's what turns curiosity into obsession. Want to know what confuses her the most? A man who is attracted to her but doesn't chase her. A man who is available but not always reachable. A man who is kind but not submissive. That contradiction, it drives her mad in the best way possible. Because you are breaking her pattern. You are not predictable, you are not boring, you are not needy, you are not overly detached. You are just solid, calm, present. And that calm presence speaks louder than any poetic text or romantic gesture. Because while the other guys are tripping over themselves to impress her, you are just being you, and that unshakable energy, that's the most attractive thing in the world. So many men waste years trying to figure out the rules, trying to crack the code, memorizing lines, learning tactics, but the real game, it's internal. It's about who you are, not what you say, not what you do, but the energy you walk with, the standards you uphold, the peace you refuse to sacrifice. Women can sense that in an instant, and when you have it, you'll notice something crazy. You don't have to make her want you. She will feel drawn to you without knowing why. And that right there, that is the paradox that makes no sense, yet defines everything. You've probably heard this too many times. I just want a nice guy. But when a truly good, kind man shows up, calm, present, and consistent, she suddenly feels nothing. Why? Because nice doesn't trigger her emotional world. Nice doesn't create tension. Nice is safe, but it is also dull when it is served, without an edge. Women crave contrast. They want the man who can be gentle and grounded, but also assertive and unpredictable. They don't want you to just nod and agree with everything they say. They want you to challenge them, to make them think, to make them feel. The man who isn't afraid to say no becomes far more attractive than the man who says yes to everything. Why? Because one makes her feel emotionally alive. The other makes her feel like she is already in control. The feminine doesn't respond to your words. It responds to your energy. That's why you can say everything right and still lose her, because if your tone is needy, hesitant, or unsure, she feels it. And once she feels that you are chasing, that you are seeking her approval, that you are looking for her to fill a void within you, you lose all polarity. She doesn't want a boy looking for a mother. She wants a man standing in his own frame, centered in his own truth, not seeking her permission to lead, to love, or to live. And here's where the paradox really kicks in. When you no longer need her validation, she becomes magnetized to you. That's attraction. That's the illogical math of female desire. Why do you think women always say, "I don't know what it is about him," when they describe the men they are most drawn to? Because it's not his looks, or his job, or his social media presence. It's his vibe, his essence, his nonverbal communication, the way he carries himself when nobody is watching. That almost silent intensity that says, "I don't need to prove myself to anyone." That kind of man triggers something deep in the feminine, a curiosity, a tension, a challenge. She starts wondering who he really is. And once a woman starts wondering about you, her desire has already begun. Here's what nobody tells you. Women are emotional archaeologists. They dig with their feelings. They test with their behavior. They probe for your truth through chaos. It makes no sense to the logical male mind. Why create drama when things are peaceful? Why test a man who is already good to you? But to her, this is how she feels out your strength. She wants to see if you will bend. She wants to see if you will break. She wants to feel your edges. Not because she wants to destroy you, but because she wants to feel safe. And ironically, she feels safest when she knows that your frame can't be shaken, even by her. And then there's the mystery of timing. You could be everything she ever wanted in a man, but if you show up before she's done with her thrill-seeking phase, she won't choose you. Not because you are wrong for her, but because you are too right, too stable, too real. And real love is terrifying to someone who is still addicted to emotional chaos. It makes no sense. You think being the best option should count for something, but in her world, the emotional journey matters more than the logical choice. And if she hasn't burned out from the thrill rides yet, she won't settle down into the calm waters of real intimacy with you. There's a brutal irony at play here. The more she likes you, the less she wants to show it. Because vulnerability is a risk, and modern dating has taught women that showing too much interest too soon makes them look weak. So she plays it cool, she pretends, she delays, she waits for you to lead. Meanwhile, you're sitting there, wondering if you are imagining the whole connection. This is why the man with emotional intelligence wins, because he doesn't need her constant validation to stay grounded. He can feel her attraction even when she's pretending otherwise. He doesn't chase it, he lets it unfold. And that patience, that calm presence, that's what drives her wild. She'll say things that make your logical brain short-circuit. I want a man who listens, but who also leads. I want a partner, but he has to dominate me. I don't like games, but he has to keep me guessing. And you're sitting there, trying to draw a straight line between contradictions that were never meant to be linear, because her attraction is not a puzzle to be solved. It's a dance to be led. She doesn't need you to make sense of it. She needs you to move through it with confidence, to not ask for a map, to be the man who can walk into chaos without flinching. And here's another thing that flips logic on its head. If you are too emotionally available, too early, she backs away. Why? Because attraction is time sensitive. If you give her the world before she is emotionally invested in you, it feels overwhelming. She hasn't earned it yet. She doesn't trust it. And without that emotional investment, your affection just feels like pressure. But if you slowly reveal yourself, like a book she can't put down, then each chapter she gets to read becomes more valuable. You're not flooding her with your love, you're inviting her into it. And when a woman feels like she is choosing you, instead of being chased by you, that's when obsession forms. Ever notice how a man who says less often has more of an impact? That's because mystery breeds tension, and tension is the very oxygen of attraction. The moment she thinks she has you all figured out, the thrill begins to fade. Not because she is shallow, but because her emotional body craves novelty. And that novelty doesn't mean being a different person every day. It means holding back just enough to keep her leaning in, just enough to keep her wondering, just enough to make her work for it. Because a woman values what she has to earn, and what costs her nothing rarely holds her attention for long. This is why the best seduction is often silence, not ignoring her, but being calm, being present, not rushing to fill every single gap with words or jokes, letting the space between you breathe, because in that space she starts to project her own emotions, she starts to feel, she starts to wonder, she starts to imagine. And once a woman's imagination is engaged, you are halfway to her heart. Most men never figure this out. They talk their way out of attraction, but the man who can sit in silence and let her feel her own desire rising, that man doesn't chase women, they chase him. And here's where it gets even more ironic. Women often fall the hardest for the men who confuse them emotionally, not because those men are cruel, but because their unpredictability keeps her on her toes. It creates emotional spikes, highs and lows that feel like intensity, and intensity is easily mistaken for a deep connection. The guy who shows up and is amazing, then vanishes. The one who is hot one day and cold the next. It's maddening, but it is also addictive. That inconsistency keeps her heart racing, because in a world where boredom is the enemy, a man who brings emotional movement, whether it is positive or negative, often gets her full attention now. I'm not saying that you need to become toxic or manipulative, but I am saying that emotional control is power, and the man who maintains control over his own reactions, his presence, and his attention, he commands respect. Most men give that control away in the name of love. They react to her every mood swing. They respond to every breadcrumb she throws. They let their entire day revolve around whether or not she texted them back. But the man who is too grounded to be pulled by her emotional waves, that is the man she can't ignore, because he is not reacting to her. He is leading the interaction, and leadership, to the feminine, is irresistible. You ever wonder why the man who acts like he could walk away at any moment seems to be the one she holds onto the tightest? It's because that energy says, you are optional to me. And when you are optional, you become valuable. It's paradoxical, but it's how the game of attraction works. When you center your entire life around her, she feels suffocated. But when you remain at the center of your own world, and you invite her in, if she earns it, she feels excited. She leans in. She craves more. Not because you are playing hard to get, but because you actually are hard to get. And that's what turns her interest into desire. Here's another the less emotionally available you are at the start, the more effort she will put in. That's not about being cold. It's about being selective. When a woman senses that you don't need her, but you want her, it creates a powerful dynamic. You're not chasing her, you are inviting her to rise to your level. You are setting a standard, an unspoken challenge. And women love a challenge. They thrive on it. Because when they finally win a man like that over, it means something. It wasn't just handed to them. They had to step into their feminine. They had to soften, they had to feel. And that makes the connection real to them. Even the way you carry yourself, your walk, your tone, your eye contact. It all matters more than the words you say. Because women feel first, and they think later. They are tuned into your vibe before they are tuned into your logic. You could say all the right things, but if your energy is off, if you are anxious, if you are seeking her approval, if you are too eager, she will sense it, and she will pull away. But if you can walk into a room like you own it, speak slowly, breathe deeply, and hold her eye contact with a calm confidence, she feels that, and that feeling bypasses her rational mind and it hits her right in the gut. That's what attraction really is. It's not a checklist. It's an emotional impression. And let's talk about another contradiction. Women say they want to feel safe, but they often fall in love with the man who makes them feel slightly nervous. Why? Because that nervousness is excitement, it's novelty, it's edge, and edge is the drug. The man who brings emotional electricity, not chaos, but depth, is the man who leaves a mark. He's not boring, he doesn't explain himself away to make her feel better. He doesn't apologize for making her feel too much. He lets her feel everything, and in doing that, he becomes unforgettable. Because most men are either too soft or too harsh. The rare few can strike that perfect balance, and that's what pulls her in deeper. What attracts her is rarely what keeps her. She might be drawn to the mysterious bad boy, but she stays for the man who knows how to channel that mystery into direction. She might fall for the rebel, but she thrives with the king. And the difference between the two is that one plays with her emotions, while the other guides them. You don't need to become someone else. You need to integrate the parts of yourself that she doesn't expect. Your silence, your refusal to chase, your ability to love deeply without losing your edge. That's the version of you that she will never forget, because it's not common, it's magnetic. Sometimes the most attractive thing you can say to a woman is nothing at all, just a raised eyebrow, just a smirk, just that calm stillness, when she expects you to explode, because she is used to men being reactive. She is used to them unraveling under pressure. But when she throws a test your way, and you meet it with a grounded stillness, that tells her more than any speech ever could. It tells her, I don't lose myself, no matter what you do. And that level of self-control, brother, her entire nervous system, it makes her feel like she has finally met a man, not a boy playing dress-up. The men who get it, who really get it, they don't chase, they don't convince, they don't beg, they witness, they observe, they choose. And because of that, women offer them things that they would never give to the average man, not because they are manipulative, but because that man's presence pulls it out of her. He doesn't ask her to be feminine, his energy invites her into it. And the wildest part is, she thanks you for it later. She'll say, I don't know what it is about you, I just feel different around you. That difference, it's your clarity, your strength, your refusal to let her emotional waves drown your purpose. So yes, it makes no sense. What attracts women defies all logic. It bends reason. It violates consistency. But that's the point. Attraction lives in contrast, in mystery, in polarity. And your job is not to decode it, but to understand your own value within it. You are not here to be understood. You are here to be felt. You are not here to make her comfortable. You are here to be the storm and the shelter. And the moment you can embrace that duality, the masculine truth inside the feminine chaos, is the moment you become unforgettable. She doesn't want perfection, brother. She wants your presence. She wants to feel something when you enter the room. Not because you are loud, not because you are flexing, but because your energy shifts the entire dynamic. The man who stands in silence with a calm intensity will always outshine the man who is reciting pickup lines like a script. It doesn't make sense to the rational mind, but that's the whole game. Attraction isn't a resume review. It's a visceral experience. And the more you try to explain yourself, the less she feels you. That's why the quiet, grounded man who doesn't try too hard always gets chosen in the end, because his essence speaks louder than his words ever could. You'll never fully make sense of what draws her in, and that's okay. The more you try to decode her attraction, the more you will move away from your own center. What you can do is become so deeply aware of yourself, become so dialed into your own presence, your direction, your vision, that any woman who enters your orbit either aligns with it, or she gets pulled away by the sheer strength of your movement. That's how kings live. They don't wait for validation. They create gravity, and women, being emotional creatures, they respond to that gravity, to that depth, to that groundedness. Not because it is perfect, but because it is real. There is no formula that will guarantee that she will stay, but there is one that guarantees that you will not lose yourself trying. And that's choosing to never chase what runs, to never over-explain to confusion, and to never try to logic your way into love. Your clarity is your sword, your emotional restraint is your shield, and your refusal to step out of your own power, even when everything in you wants to be chosen, is what makes you rare. And women may not always understand this kind of man, but they will always remember him, because he made her feel something she couldn't quite explain. And that sensation, it lingers.